Welcome. So what I'm going to do is show you how to solve this by applying our quadratic formula. And what we want to do is, again, we want to find the values of x that are going to make this equation true when our output value is equal to 0. And the main important thing we want to do is make sure that our quadratic equation is in ax squared plus bx plus c format. So once we have it in this format, we can now determine our a, b, and our c. So in this case, a equals 3, b equals -3, and c equals 8. And once we have determined our a, b, and c, now we can find the value of our discriminant, which is going to be what we're going to be taking the square root of in our quadratic equation. So to do that, I just plug in my values for a, b, and c. So b squared is going to be a -3 squared minus 4 times 3 times 8. So let's see, we have -3 squared, which is going to be -3 squared, which is going to be 9, minus, we could have -4 times 3, which is a -12, and then -12 times 8 is going to be a -96. So it's going to be 9 minus 96, which is going to equal a -87. All right. So now once we have -87, we notice that we have a imaginary number, right? And when we have this imaginary number, we know that we're going to have two complex, or sometimes we can refer to them as imaginary, roots or solutions. Or really what's going to happen is we're not going to have any x-intercepts. So now what I'm going to do is now I need to simply, I take this, and now I'm going to plug it into our quadratic formula with the rest of my values. So x equals the opposite of b. So since that's a -3, the opposite of that would be a +3 plus or minus the square root of -87 -87, and then divided by 2 times a, which is 3. All right. So now let's go and see what we can simplify. So we have 3 plus or minus. Now, we know that square root of 87, that is going to be an imaginary number. So we can break that up by using I. However, we want to see, can we simplify this radical? So I want to start thinking about my square numbers, which is going to be 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36. And determine, do any of those numbers divide into 87 that I could break it apart? And unfortunately, there's none of them. However, I can rewrite this as a square root of 87i. All right, because what I did is, in case you forgot, 87 could be rewritten as the square root of 87 times -1. We can break apart multiplication under our radical, and we can take the square root of 87 times the square root of -1. Well, the square root of -1 we represent as I. All right, so then this is all going to be divided by 6. Now, when we have a complex solution like this, we need to make sure we always write it in a plus bi form. So therefore, I'm going to divide the 6 into both of these terms. So I have 3 over 6 plus or minus the square root of 87i divided by 6. Well, this reduces down to 1/2 plus or minus the square root of 87 over 6i. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is how you solve your imaginary solution. Thanks.